had been completely and totally obliterated. The administration was careful to frame this as a limited operation, meaning that they wasn't going to do more stuff in more places. They deliberately avoided hitting Iranian leaders, military command centers, or any cities. So the stated goal wasn't regime change, but a surgical strike to remove one specific threat, Iranians' path to a nuclear weapon. So why take such a huge risk? The Trump administration laid out three main reasons. First and most obvious was to physically destroy Iran's nuclear infrastructure. For years, American and Israel intelligence had been watching with alarm as Iran stockpiled enriched uranium. The strikes were meant to slam the brakes on the program, making it physically impossible for Iran to bomb or to build bombs anytime soon. Now, the second reason was deterrence. The bombing was a message. In his speech, President Trump sent a blunt warning to Tehran: if they do not stop, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. He was making it clear that if Iran retaliated against the U.S., it would be met with an even bigger military response. It was a high stakes gamble meant to scare Iran into backing down from its fight with Israel and thinking twice about challenging the U.S. And that brings us to the third and maybe most critical reason: unwavering support for Israel. The strikes were planned in close coordination with the Israeli government. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu later called it a bold decision. Israeli forces were already in a tough fight with Iran, but didn't have the right kind of firepower to take out the Fordo facility for good. I mean, they could probably put a dent on it, maybe block a couple doors, but not really stop the facility. Americans' intervention with its powerful bunker busters was seen as the only way to get the job done. As Trump put it, we worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before since World War I. The strikes were the moment the U.S. officially picked a side in the open war between Israel and Iran. Understanding the tangled web of alliances, politics, and military decisions that led to events like this is more important than ever. The choices made in Washington, Tehran, and Jerusalem send ripples all across the globe. Now, if you guys appreciate this type of information and you want these kinds of deep dive analysis, consider subscribing to the channel and making sure that you hit the like button and that notification bell so that you never miss any of these shows, because you know that we're going to be going live on tomorrow about that golden Trump phone. So as you can imagine, the world's reaction has been extreme, and it was immediate, where everyone all over the map is paying attention to what's going on right now. They're still talking about it. I mean, granted, it happened a couple days ago, but they're still talking about it. It is the headlines everywhere. Iran's leaders vowed revenge, but their threats were surprisingly vague. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, warned off regrettable responses, a phrase some expert thought was a sign they were either in disarray or trying to avoid an all-out war with America. Iran foreign minister said that the attack crossed a very big red line and immediately made plans to talk with Russia's Vladimir Putin looking for friends in high places. And there's my man, Steven. Special shout out to Steven. He said, what's up, my man? What we talking about? So, Steven, we're covering the destruction of the military sites over in Iran and the reason why everybody is in an uproar over the bombings. Now, I remember you asked me a few days ago, what did I think about the bombing situation and should America have gotten involved? Well, based on the information that I had discovered, I wanted to update you that my position doesn't change. I told you that this was a control issue, and you said they attacked us, right? I do not have any information that they attacked us. The U.S. attacked Iran, so if you're in Iran, then yes. But I have no information that the U.S. was attacked by anyone yet. But the U.S. did step in on the Iran-Israel conflict with the sole purpose of eliminating the possibility for nuclear defense from Iran. Now, that means that America's only you say, I saw the news, they attacked a base, though. When did they attack that base? Because over the last 24 hours, I heard nothing. Late breaking news, because see, if I would have tried to dig deeper right before the show, I would have started 30 minutes late and would have had more updates. Let's see. You're telling me that there are some decisive updates. Okay, so based on some latest updates available, Iran has launched missile attacks that targeted U.S. military bases in the Middle East, specifically in Qatar and Iraq, not in the United States. So they have attacked U.S. military bases over there, which is a little bit different. And this was in retaliation to the airstrike on the Iranian nuclear facilities. Now, explosions were reported at or near the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, which is a major hub for U.S. Central Command, and a similar attack was noted in Iraq. So these actions were part of Iran's response to what is described as an invasion of its sovereignty after the U.S. alongside Israel struck multiple Iranian nuclear sites. So there's no evidence that Iran has directly attacked the United States mainland, which is what I was just telling you. But the Iranian attacks have so far been confined to American military assets and bases in the Middle East region, where the situation remains fluid, and both the U.S. and Iran have issued warnings about further escalations if hostilities continues. And former President current President Donald Trump, has responded to Iran's missile attacks on the U.S. military bases in the Middle East, where Trump described Iran's retaliatory missile strike as a very weak response to the U.S. bombing of 3 Iranian nuclear sites, and publicly thanked Iran for providing early notice of the attack. I'm guessing he gave the U.S. the ability to evacuate before they blew the places up, which he said allowed U.S. forces to avoid casualties and significant damage. So in his social media post, Trump emphasized that no Americans were harmed and that the U.S. military intercepted most of the missiles. So Trump also used the opportunity to call for an end to hostilities, urging both Iran and Israel to pursue peace, and stated, "Congratulations, world. it's time for peace, which is the same thing he did with Ukraine when they were in the middle of conflict. He was like, hey, let's stop fighting and let's start making money. He further claimed that Iran had gotten it all out of their system and expressed hope that there would be no further escalations. Additionally, Trump reiterated his warning that any further Iranian retaliation would be met with overwhelming force. So he kind of downplayed the attacks, but he didn't strike back and send all of our soldiers over there to go and boss up and take over the whole city or take over the whole country. Steven says all because they didn't want to make peace. Well, yeah. Well, okay. So no, I think the issue is that whatever Iran is doing, calling themselves trying to mind their own business in their own backyard. I told you a couple days ago, America has always been perceived as allegedly the strongest one in the world. And the reason why that would be is because America's got the most dangerous stuff that not too many people want to mess with. America's not the only one with it, because you have a bunch of black arms dealers selling all kinds of outdated technology from the military and defense area to other countries. So people got, but they don't have the latest. So America might have nukes. Maybe China might have nukes, but not everybody's got nukes. America might have more nukes than some of the other people that have nukes. So what happens is to prevent anybody else from gaining a offensive front against the United States, even if we're at peace with them, you can't turn your back on me if I'm stronger than you. So to prevent them from outdoing the United States, what they do is they destroy their ability to be successful. Now, all it was saying, hey, if you have a nuke, your nuke can destroy my entire country. Even if your nuke actually got caught in the backdrafted wind and accidentally came to the United States and hit us, we would be, devastated by that. So to prevent you from having the opportunity to launch a nuke, then we're just going to destroy anything nuclear. Sanctions do not affect Iran because Iran has been dealing with heavy sanctions. Sanctions are fines, and apparently they're either paying those fines while complaining about it, or they're in a position where they don't care about the sanctions and they're not paying the fines. Now, the goal of blowing them up is getting them to understand that you can't work on nuclear research. I understand that the atom bomb was originally designed as a form of infinite energy, or seemingly infinite energy. But the fact that it has a high combustible element to it, that's why it went from being something that was used for an extreme quantity of energy to being something that was used for an extreme quantity of condensed energy that would have a massive disbursement area. If you think about some of the tech companies in the United States that over the past 3 months have debuted infinite energy in a small container, like that little egg that y'all seen if y'all was watching, and it's just like an infinite source of energy situation that can power the whole house for seemingly forever. That type of scenario has a nuclear component to it, but it's minimal. When you start getting above 60% nuclear components, you start dealing with like explosive grade, highly volatile. Exposure is contaminating to the human body kind of levels. There is nothing that you can do on or little to nothing that you can do on a consumer level that over 60% uranium is involved. That's like if you ever watched The Simpsons, that little glowing stick that would flying around in The Simpsons, where they had to wear hazmat suits to be next to that little goalie. It's pretty much like that. So what kind of more than 60% uranium are they trying to build? And that's what lead them to that particular scenario. Now, Steven said, yeah, America always getting into stuff that doesn't matter to them. But this war is different, though. This war is, in fact, different. Well, usually America sticks their nose into other people's business to maintain political powers. Or to have a regime overturned. So if there is a lot of political unrest in a certain economy and America can benefit from that economy being stable, America might establish a rebellion or to put a new leader in play, or America might aid that country with suppressing the rebellion to maintain the leader that they want to be in play so that trades could be more successful with that country. Peace treaties between America and other countries typically last and exist for the benefit of trades. And with those trades comes protection. So America could potentially get certain resources at a lower rate in exchange for, when you're in trouble, call me. That is one of those scenarios where America had to pay its debts. Steven said, to be honest, I don't see the point of having so many nukes. They basically harm everyone. Yeah, there isn't a reason to have any nukes. But remember, Wisconsin, Wyoming, there's quite a few states in the United States that are primarily nuclear facilities. And they're not power plants. Those are the states that have very low populations but large land mass. Yeah. They don't have nuclear facilities in every state around the country. I think they did away with the majority of their nuclear power plants. So U.S. still got nukes, though. And the nukes that they have and hold are allegedly for defense. But my thing was that Trump has been waiting to push the button on something for a while. When he was in his first presidency, he was talking about on Twitter how he was going to nuke folks. And that was back when him and Putin was going at it. Well, him and Russia was going at it. And then they said that he was friends with Russia, and he was talking about bombing folks back then. And now he's able to bomb somebody, and it's seemingly for a good cause. Seemingly. Steven says, I guess we might need them if aliens come and take over. Well, the Golden Dome of defense, or the Golden Dome of America, is supposed to protect from space and aerial attacks. So, assuming that any alien invasion is susceptible to missile strikes, if a foreign object ends up in U.S. airspace and is deemed hostile, we're supposed to have a large enough cluster of satellites in the space area over the United States, orbiting over the United States, with the capability to launch offensive attacks against whatever is above our heads, whether it's a meteorite or a UFO or test missiles that went in the wrong direction and accidentally ended up in U.S. airspace. I don't know what happened. I slipped. Somebody hacked our system. And missiles just started launching directly at Florida. Y'all heard that story before, right? They were knocking out, this was a few years back, they were knocking out missiles from the MacDill Air Force Base overhead. They were just knocking them out of the sky. And I was sitting here thinking, man, I'm so glad I don't live so close to because if they hit the Air Force Base out there, there's quite a little bit of Florida is going to be you're going to have the smoke in the face and your hair sticking up like Don King and sitting there holding your popcorn melted. but the thing is that we have not come together as a whole around the world, and one of the things that we've been seeing is that in order for things to go back to normal, somebody has to be on top. Somebody has to be the controller of decisions. And what we're getting with that is that the United States, typically the nosiest one of all, typically Karens their way into every scenario that technically does not involve the United States, but will in fact impact the United States. Because think about this: any resources that we would get from Israel, we can't get from Israel if Israel's under attack. So the same way we went to Iraq to get oil, they're like, oh yeah, we're looking for bin Laden. Man was on dialysis. He wasn't hard to find. You just wasn't looking for him. Because where the hell is he going to hide with a dialysis machine? He's got to have a long behind extension cord to be in the mountains with a dialysis machine. Because them things don't operate off of no infinite battery source. So you would have to have a long behind 1,000-something mile extension cord from out of the mountains to power a dialysis machine. So the thing about it is that when the United States wants something, they're going to get it. They're either going to negotiate it, or conspiracies will occur and they'll end up with it anyway. But when the American doesn't want you to do something, you're not going to do it. Because either you're going to say, yeah, that's fair, or you have like, well, the UN might decide to throw some sanctions down, and you might say, well, I don't want to pay any more fines. But truthfully, the idea is, if you don't do what I say, here goes those B-2 stealth bombers, and all of a sudden, like, mountains become valleys, and that's kind of a demonstration of authority, because as soon as the order was called, the same day, everything was gotten. Now, imagine, and this is why it was a demonstration of power. Imagine if the goal was to overturn the country. Those B-2 bombers could have had different targets. If you guys remember with World War I, usually when you're trying to devastate a country outside of the Hiroshima bombing, you would typically target schools, hospitals, and the political powers. Because that's pretty much it. With no hospitals, they can't recover. With no schools, they're focusing on their families. And with the political powers on the run, there is a political vacuum in the country, which gives you the authority or the capabilities to put a different political authority there. So the fact that the B-2 bombers flew overhead, skipped the schools, skipped the hospitals, skipped the political powers, and went after a mountain, that's equivalent to having a bullet pass by your face and say, hey, next time I'm not going to miss. And it makes you think, I don't want to experience the fact that you didn't miss, so maybe I should sit down somewhere. Steven said, yeah, he was pretty easy to find. Will you be live tomorrow? Oh yeah, I'm live every night of the week. Around about the same time every night of the week, because tomorrow we're going to be talking about the golden Trump phone, and he's supposed to be starting up a telecommunication system and launching a phone in September. Donald Trump is supposed to be including things like healthcare concierge service to the phone plan. It's supposed to be cheaper than most phone plans that we have heard of, and it is supposed to bounce off of some of the top major phone companies like AT&T, T-Mobile, and other such. T-Mobile prioritizes its own customers over other networks when you start talking about the overwhelming usage of cellular service. But we're going to be talking about in details what all is supposed to be going into this phone, the price, and the feasibility, because a lot of people have looked at the phone and they were complaining about the fact that it does not have as much tech as other Androids. It does not have as many features as an iPhone. But if your goal is to make and take calls, make and take emails, and then get medical treatment for the elderly, that would it would be serving a different purpose. He said, Steven says, golden Trump phone, what the hell? My first time hearing this. Definitely gonna be a spy phone to learn about. Like Metro PCS. Metropolitan Police Corresponding System. So yeah, this is a thing. I was about to cover the phone on Monday today, and then the war happened, or not the war, but the bombing happened, and I was like, snap, I got to cover the bombing. And then I seen Putin was supposed to be talking right before I started the show, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna start it on time today. I gave my word I was gonna start on time today because I figured that we would have a lot of things to go over. And then you asked me about the bombing that would have happened, and if I would have been covering that bombing and all the details behind that bombing, I would have started an hour late because I would have been organizing more information. So I started on time, but I was absent 24 hours worth of information because the bombing would have happened yesterday. Because you and I talked, the bombing first started on Iran 2 days ago. And I talked to you guys about how I was going to cover it today. I put the script together yesterday so that I would be able to start on time today. And from the time I gathered the information and put the script together yesterday night, which was about 20 hours ago, the strike happens. So since I went to bed and woke up, they had to blew something up. Now, before I dug deeper into what Putin was about to say on CNN today, I said, let me go ahead and start this show. And that put me in a position where I did not have all the information as soon as I went live. But you know me, I'm a vat of information, so I have the capabilities to go get more details live on the show, as you can see. And I was able to give you the updates of a small and large scale scenario. Steven says, I can't wait to say, look, I got the Trump phone. Bro, if you're going after the Trump phone, you got to accessorize. You got to get the golden Confederate flag Trump shoes, and then get those with the Trump phone and partner that with the MAGA hat. And if you wear like red and white with it, you got to be careful which which neighborhood you walk in with. You might have to throw some blue in there somewhere so that they ain't tripping. But if you wear like the red and white outfit with it, you're like Trump. Like, I'm waiting on like a whole Trump administration outfit, because with the shoes and the phone, you need to accessorize. You've got the manga shirt, you got the manga hat. You know, all you need now is like some pants to match, and you're like head to toe Trump style. But it's crazy. Might as well buy the golden Trump green card. I've already covered that card. Now the that's a $5 million passport card. I covered that on the show already. The day that he said he was going to do it, I did not know that he was going to make it all about him. He said at the time, this was about 3 months ago, that he was putting out the $5 million card for anybody who wanted to buy citizenship, skip the line, get citizenship, unlimited lines of credit, because they put up $5 million. Now, what he did was, he didn't just make a gold card. It's got like a U.S. passport thing on it. It's got Donald Trump on it. I think there's like a globe on it somewhere. So it looks like a Visa or MasterCard, but it says U.S. passport gold. and it's got Trump on it, and it's golden. It's not, I can't say that it's made out of gold, but it is either gold plated or utilizing like rhenium or some other type of gold material to make it look gold. I have not done my research to find out what Trump's asphyxiation is with gold, everything being the golden image. It's almost like he's subliminally giving you the fact that Trump represents the gold standard. But it's crazy that he made it about him. So if you put up $5 million US, you'll get a Visa card with Donald Trump's face on it. The same way, if you had $10,000, you can get you a pair of sneakers that had a Confederate flag on it. But the phone is actually practical. The phone is like $497, I do believe. And it's supposed to have like a 47 price range per month for the services. And it's supposed to have other features on it that was more beneficial to the elderly and the disabled than it would be for the average individual that's like a YouTuber or something like that. But it would be a very strategic way to dive into the market. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about is that the bombings that just happened, political unrest. That's the kind of stuff that's going to have more people leaning towards gold and silver. Trades between Iran and America are going to be a little bit flaky right now. Investment opportunities in Iran from American foreign nationals are going to be flaky right now. You're going to see a redirect, which is going to be a shift in political power. Because think about this. Any investors that was investing in tech that would have been benefiting from the development of the uranium facilities would have lost all of its capital on those bombings. So any investors that would have put money down on that would have just lost their money over the weekend. Huge hit. Anybody else who was considering to invest in Iran would be hesitant to do so, which would be redirecting their funds to a different country. It's still investing in tech, but investing in tech in a country that's not going to get hit with missiles from the United States. So even something as simple as a handful of B-2 bombers going over there and dropping bombs on a mountain changes the way people spend money. And that's why we cover it on the show. He said, I got to start saving for that card. I need that gold card with the Trump phone. Bro, okay. Hypothetically, being able to be in a grocery store with a real $5 million Visa card made of gold or gold plated with gold shoes with Confederate flag logos on it, talking on a Trump phone with Trump's name or logo on it somewhere. I don't know, man. That's a statement among statements. But the people who are trying to get citizenship in America, putting up $5 million, that puts a lot of money towards the deficit. Keep in mind, $6 billion added to the deficit already. But when you think about how there was about 60 to 65,000 visas handed out this past year for HB1s and EB2s and NIWs, all that. And if those 60,000 citizenships were given a $5 million installment to America, we would have had several $billion worth of capital from those 60,000 citizens. So it's a good political move. It's like, hey, buy American citizenship if you can afford it. But those are going to be the individuals that's going to start with like black cards. They're going to start with like unlimited credit, 850 credit scores. and they don't have to do anything. So when I covered the passports, the Trump US passport visa thing, they do not have to start up a business. They do not have to do anything other than buy this card, and they are given unlimited access in and out of the country. Now, millions of dollars, you're clearly going to be creating some type of revenue in the country, because if you're a multimillionaire where you can give away $5 million to skip the line, to skip thousands of people in the line and fast track your way into citizenship, you clearly got money left over. Those are going to be the type of people that are going to be one step away from diplomatic immunity, government vehicles, convoy escorts, security guards, and those are all jobs. Okay. You don't have to come here with a company and employ people as a $5 million visa card. You just have to show up eventually with a $5 million visa card. Steven said every mega fan dream. Almost every mega fan dream, because Elon Musk is not feeling that right now. And just think about this, though. With the fallout between Elon and Donald Trump, that has taken a back burner to the most recent bombings. Elon is in tech. Donald Trump just walked into tech. Elon and Trump are beefing. There's more to their back behind the scenes arguments than just the bill. But, Elon said he didn't see the bill. He didn't know anything about the bill. But why not? If the bill was written and made accessible for the same way they put up Project 2025, if you ever have enough time for some light reading, and typically when I start talking about Project 2025, like red flags start popping up like it did yesterday. Like political guidelines or community guidelines for the podcasts and channels and stuff. And I'm like, that's all right. First Amendment, ban me. I'll challenge it because I'm talking about educational. I'm not bashing anybody. But if you take a chance to look at and it is actually accessible online. You can Google Project 2025 and download it. 950 pages of what they plan to do. Now, this Iran thing wasn't one of them, but the bills and executive orders that Donald Trump have signed, well over 100 of them, in less than 100 days. He said, yeah, I'll be leaving, though I'm be in the next live. Oh, of course. I'll see you in the next live. Definitely. I appreciate you stopping by for a short period of time to kind of get some of this information. But if you look at the Project 2025, it covered all of the executive orders that Donald Trump made this year. Whether he admits to being in line with Project 2025 or it was his idea, it could be a coincidence, it could be deliberate. Fact is, everything Project 2025 designed to do from 2017, he's putting into action in 2025. The only thing he hasn't done yet is ban pornography. You think I literally didn't know about the Trump phone? What the hell? Bro, you gotta follow this show more often, man. I cover most of the ridiculous things that happens in politics that nobody pays attention to. It is actually going to put a little dent in telecommunications market, and it's going to have a little bit of buzz when it first comes out, because there are some diehard Trump fans that are going to buy this product, because those shoes were being sold at Walmart. Those golden Confederate flag Trump shoes were being sold at Walmart's for $400. Why? Walmart is supposed to be cheap for financially challenged individuals. It's not a freaking mall, and you're putting $400 shoes in a Walmart. but those shoes were being bought in a Walmart and resold on eBay for $9,000. So when he releases the phone in September, people are going to buy the phone, and people are going to use it, and the phone exclusively comes with a service. So this isn't like you're going to buy the Trump phone and then put it on your T-Mobile network. I mean, you might be able to. It might be like jailbroken, where you can add that unlocked phone to your own network, but they're offering you the ability to transition your current number to Trump's phone service and use Trump's phone instead of using the current carriers that you have. Now, his phone service is the taxes on my phone service, but I've got a commercial phone line with several lines of service. So, I mean, it is what it is. And then my phone service gives me $150 off every month on the service. But I have that much that they're taking almost 30% off of my bill every month due to some of these drop frames that y'all see during these live streams. He said, I'm try to be in every live. News ain't helping that much. Okay, so the news is designed to tell you what the government wants you to know. I am designed to tell you what will negatively impact your money. So I am the most non-biased source about anything newsworthy, because if I cover it, I'm going to talk to you about how this is going to negatively impact your bottom dollar. Like when I talked about the raids in California, the riots and stuff, that the raids and the riots. I wasn't mistaken. The raids that were happening that was negatively impacting employment, and the riots that came from the raids that was negatively impacting industries, because curfews that started 8 and 10 o'clock shut down nightclubs that open doors at 10 o'clock and close doors at 3 a.m. because those nightclubs are not going to have any customers, because nobody is supposed to be on the streets unless they're going to or from work until 6 o'clock in the morning. After hours clubs would be closed down because nobody is supposed to be outside until daylight. So simply spray painting everybody's car, which is causing damage to people who did you nothing, and burning down buildings that belong to people who did you nothing, those things is not that type of behavior had nothing to do with your disarray with the government snatching people off the streets. I said this a long time ago. I'm not encouraging it, but this is what I said a long time ago, is that if you got a problem with somebody, you should take your anger and frustrations out on that person and that person's stuff. You should not be attacking your neighbors when your neighbors ain't the ones that you mad at. You're not supposed to be knocking off your local convenience store or your local favorite gas station, especially the ones that are under the market value. When you're buying products from them, it's like the cheapest ones in the neighborhood. That is one of the stores that should be exempt. Like barbershop, this is Switzerland over here. You're not supposed to knock off this convenience store because we can get all our Black and Miles and our OE and our Coke 45 cheap as fuck over here. We're not supposed to mess with this place, you know. But what they do is, people who are destructive, they're not out there for positive anything. They're not out there to make a statement. They're not out there to make a difference. They just want to destroy stuff. In the process of people running out there protesting for rights and freedom, some jackass has to come out there and do something and hope that they don't get caught with it. Then a handful of following jackasses have to follow them and cheer them on while they're turning over cars and setting people's cars on fire and spray painting buildings and throwing bricks in windows. And then some broke jackass takes this as the opportunity to pillage. And that's when the National Guard steps in. But I told you guys before, Stephen said, get this man in the news station. Look now, I can read the cue cards now. These are prescription glasses. I don't wear these to look cool. $805 prescription glasses. These bad boys are expensive. I got to get my prescription refilled though. But check this out though. Since May 7th, with the mandatory requirement to show proof of citizenship upon encounter with law enforcement while they're doing the deportation efforts. Places like California, and that's not the only place that it's happening, because it is, the deportation thing is starting to spread to the east. They are snatching folks off of their jobs and kicking in doors and snatching people out of their homes. And then those people are never seen again because they did not get their documentation before this started. I talked to you guys about this earlier this year, that there was an influx, an increase of applications for citizenship this year before this went into effect. Anybody else who chose not to at least start the application process, where they would be under the blanket of attempting to do it right now, they're out the door by force. It's not a choice. The choice came when he gave everybody the opportunity. Make sure y'all like and subscribe as y'all come through. He gave everybody the opportunity to take that $1,500 and get out of the country. That was your last choice. I covered that a few weeks ago. And now it is, I want to say, aggressive actions. So anybody who didn't leave, you can't even go to work now. You got to hide in your house until they kick the door in. Kids are going to be concerned about going to school, because if the kids don't got citizenship, the kids could get snatched up out the school. The parents will come looking for the child, and the parents will get snatched up because they're holding the kid hostage. Y'all got to understand, there's some black site tactics that'll happen. And as things go forward, things are going to get worse. So what you're going to see now with the riots, with the bombing, with the deportation, put all this stuff together. Now you have anybody that is, any racist individual that doesn't need an excuse, looking at anybody that could resemble a Middle Eastern person acting a fool because of the Iran bombing. Then you're going to have any individual that doesn't want a non-American in the country. This is going to be supremacist behavior, going to be ratting out anybody who doesn't look like they were born in America, which is going to be racial profiling, right? And they're just going to be hotline tipping off and having black SUVs showing up in parking lots, snatching people up over ridiculous stuff. The same way those same types of individuals used to call the police on minorities and have law enforcement arresting minorities on a misunderstanding. Couple that with the riots that are going on, you now have law enforcement who signed up for this shit, afraid for their safety, and showing up using extreme force before they have a reason to use extreme force, because they're afraid of being caught off guard by any large mob of individuals that will come out of nowhere and do anything. So if they are handcuffing somebody and 5 or 7 people show up disgruntled about it, that 1 or 2 police officers are going to potentially utilize aggressive response to the neighboring crowd, where we do have a right to observe 20 feet or more away from any action that the police are forming. They're going to make you give a 50 to 75 foot perimeter, where if you don't back up, they will arrest you too, because you're watching. Especially some of those police officers that tend to be overly aggressive on the arrest, which is the reason why we have victims like George Floyd. And their partners not going to let you watch it, not going to let you record it, and they'll arrest you too. And the screwed up part about this is, especially in areas where riots are occurring, you do not have to do anything wrong. If you are put in handcuffs and they put charges on your books and write the story that you did something, you did it. You didn't do it, but you did it. When you go to court, it is your word versus the police officer's word. And whatever you don't have on video is going to be used against you in the court of law. Therefore, the judge is going to believe the police officer until video evidence comes out that shows that that did not happen that way. Which means that the average American is probably going to have to start walking around with body cameras on. And they got a lot of them out there. I told y'all before about putting those on your, you got the body cameras you could put on your body. That's like 8-hour record times, 30-minute charge times. You've got some that now you could put on your glasses. It's a little box that you could put on your glasses. Everywhere you're looking, you can record it. I think those have 48-hour record time. You're going to have cameras, video footage, evidence that indicates and hope that the evidence can be passed on to somebody else before it ends up in police hands, so that there isn't any tampering of evidence that makes your video evidence disappear. Okay. But as long as the evidence exists, when you get into the courtroom, you can show the court that you did do what you were supposed to do. And they were not doing what they were supposed to do, and you don't deserve these charges. Now, the screwed up part about that is that with the political unrest, you're going to have things like resisting arrest, inciting a riot, terrorist charges, and then the time of day that the charges come in at also plays a factor, because curfew has zero tolerance as well. And all of this has you standing before a judge trying to explain why you were involved in that situation to begin with. Now, luckily for us that they did not lift that habeas corpus situation. But you do see how the over-aggression that is in our country right now, from everything that's been going on, the stuff that's going on with Iran, the stuff that's going on in California, the stuff that's going on in Texas. Like, we're going to have to take 2 steps back, 15 steps back when we're dealing with face-to-face communication with law enforcement, because they've got a lot to deal with, and they're going to take it out on us. Now, this bombing situation, I told you guys yesterday, matter of fact, those jets burned fuel. I told y'all yesterday, buy oil. Because the oil reserves to send jets to the other side of the planet to go blow some stuff up is going to, and with the taxation from Barack Obama increasing the cost per barrels, you're going to have to buy you a few barrels. And actually, now that I think about it, I have seen a few oil companies advertising some top tier incentives for you to invest in oil. Now's the best time to dive into that oil. Go to some of them seminars, see what they got going on, put down a stack of cash. But again, when you're investing in oil, you're going to have a decent quantity of money. There's going to be a minimum buy-in, and if you can't afford the minimum buy-in, they're not likely to sell you direct shares of oil. But you can try to find you some ETFs on oil and do marginalized trading with ETFs related to oil. And that's why I talk to you guys about these things, because everything that happens in this country impacts our ability to make and save and invest money. Everything that happens in other countries impacts the way that we make and save and invest money. Take Canada. We talked about Canada before. They're still not allowing the alcohol to be sold in America. They're still taxing electricity in some of the northern states. So some people's light bill went up $36 per kilowatt over the last special shout out to Pat. Some people's electricity has gone up $36 per kilowatt in some areas, which is forcing people to use less electricity or pay more money for their electricity. People who used to make money off of alcohol, whether they invested in the companies, sold the products, or transported the products, they're all hurting. All of the employees are hurting. So many people are getting fired. With over 500,000 people losing their jobs between the government layoffs, the alcohol distillery layoffs, the deportation layoffs, the inflation layoffs from the tariffs. And this has nothing to do with regular layoffs. we're just we're looking at a larger quantity of individuals. And I told you in February and March that unemployment compensation is backlogged with so many people being laid off. One day over the next week or two, we need to cover on the show the increased quantity of available jobs, even though we have such a large unemployment market. But this is one of the reasons why I spent the last 3 days telling you guys that you have to prioritize your agenda. You have to put your time on a calendar that is more flexible to your accountability and your accessibility, and then start paying attention when I talk to you guys about that mini retirement strategy to find something else to do. If you're doing something that is too much for you, you're grinding at the grindstone, you're burning yourself out, and you're not making what you want to make off of that, find something else. Because with all of the jobs that just opened up, if you don't like your job, you do qualify for something else. You should be able to find somewhere else to go. Or you could just stay where you're at. But one thing that we're not going to see is change if we don't put forth effort to make change. So while Donald Trump blowing up Iran didn't directly impact the United States, it did indirectly impact the United States. You know that the protesters are going to be out there doing a little bit more. Any retaliation, and you're not going to see the retaliation like missiles over U.S. soil. You're not going to see that, because that is an open declaration of war. And that's not something that I see any country doing anytime soon. And that's one of the things that I told you guys before a couple days ago, is that the last time there was conflict on American soil, where buildings were being burned to the ground and cities were being bombed from overhead, was like World War I. The Civil War was the last one where we were fighting each other. But attacks from another country, we haven't had home invasion style, like, and I'm not talking about terrorist attacks. I'm talking about like invasions from other countries. He said U.S. needs to get back to manufacturing. Look, I'm with you. We about to touch on that too. But the offshore troops coming onto U.S. soil, where we have to defend ourselves on U.S. soil, that has not happened since World War I. Now, the occasional terrorist attack or the occasional claim of a terrorist attack, that has happened. The occasional building being blown up. But I mean, Americans do more stuff to Americans than any other nation can do to America. So if we were really afraid of something, we shouldn't be afraid of what will happen from the people overseas, is what we do to each other. If we start building a united front, we would have so much stuff going on. We would be as rich in culture as Dubai if we brought ourselves together and did more stuff together. Pat talking about we need to go back to manufacturing. Look, the United States offshored their manufacturing companies because big business does not want to pay the wages that are being demanded by the American people. We are, in some states around this country, anywhere between $15 and $50 an hour being paid to put this stuff together. Where in other countries, this exact same product can be developed for anywhere between $5 and $3 an hour, because the currency is different. Then when you think about, so paying them a couple of dollars of minimum wage, their currency, when their currency is 100 to 1 or 1,000 to 1 to our currency, it's cheaper. For example, when I told you guys about how you can get you a housekeeper in the Philippines for $500 a month, $500 per month, because I think it's like a couple thousand baht or something like that per day, which is close to like a couple dollars per day, is the currency exchange. I don't know the exacts off the top of my head, but I'm just saying hypothetically. So US dollars to effort, the amount of effort you would get from a housekeeper in America, where they're wanting $25, $30 an hour, where a 10-hour day cleaning your house would be $200 to $300 or $400 for one day. You can get somebody to come to your house for 30 days for $500. Big business takes this method and offshores all of the development, because the labor cost is the cost of building that cannot be changed in America, but it can be changed somewhere else. If you're trying to manufacture something, the cost to build it and the labor costs are the two expenses on the product. The profit margin comes from the difference between the ability to sell it versus the cost to make it. In order to increase profits, you either raise the price, lower the cost to build it, or lower the labor cost, or increase the quantity of performance from the labor cost without increasing the wages in the labor cost. This puts you in a position, see, exactly, $1 is 57 pesos. So if somebody was given 570 pesos, they'd be getting paid $5 or $10. So if they were given 570 pesos to do the job, they'd be getting $10. Now, in America, ain't nobody doing nothing for $10 besides the immigrants that are being shipped out of the country. Those guys would have did it for $7 to $10. Those guys would have did it for $5. They would have just worked longer. So there's a difference. So when we start talking about how America needs to go back to manufacturing, in order for American manufacturers to thrive, American people would have to pay more money for the product. Because even with import-export costs, the company is going to bring it to another country, spend less money to build it, spend less money on the labor to construct the product, so they get it built for less. Then they're going to ship it over, and the cost of shipping is added to the price. And then they're going to sell it in the US. And because Americans are wasteful, we will pay the price because we want the item. No American, or very few Americans, look at the increased cost of stuff and say, I'm not going to buy that until the price goes back down. What most of us do is say, I can't afford that. I'm going to save my money and go buy one. So when we were talking on the show about investing and saving and putting your money in other places and then living off of the interest, that's a change in mindset. But capitalism capitalizes off of the elderly, the weak, the ignorant, people who too stupid to make a better decision. Those bad decisions cost money. The people who do not have the physical capabilities to make a better decision, relying on somebody else, they have to pay for the person that they're relying on. That costs money. The people who are too old to do anything different, those individuals are going to also rely on somebody else, and that costs money. And you capitalize off of that. You capitalize off people's mistakes. You capitalize off of people's greed. You capitalize on impulse buying, emotional spending. And all you have to do is make this product that desirable. The person will buy it eventually. Now, if, and this is where, because Pat, you say bring manufacturing back to America. If and when American manufacturers are 90 to 95% automated AI technologies, where the cost of a robot is approximately $35 per day, when employees are upward of $35 per hour, they will be spending roughly 1% of the cost of labor, probably 10% when you think about the purchase of the product and maintenance and stuff. They would be saving 90% of their overhead on wages for machines that can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no holidays, no weekends off, no sick days, in comparison to having to have multiple employees working, doing the exact same task. And I talked about this with somebody, and they're like, oh yeah, it can't be one-to-one because some machines have a singular purpose and it requires more than one machine to put together that purpose. I said, well, think about this though. If you've got 3 machines, one taking it off the shelf, one putting it in the cart, and one driving it across the room, or one taking it off the shelf, one putting it in the cart and taking it across the room, and the other one taking it off the cart and putting it on the other shelf. Okay. 3 robots to do one task, where one person could take it off the shelf, put it in the cart, and bring it across the room. You think, well, you could do better than the machine. 4 hours later, you need a break. The machines are still working. 8 hours later, you want to clock out and go home. 10 hours later, you want to clock out and go home. The machines are still working till you come back. The cost of each robot might be $3.50 a robot. You're looking at about $10.50 or $11.50 worth of robots per hour. But somebody else has to be on the clock while you're on the clock, so that when you take a break, that somebody else is still doing your work for you. That's 2 different people making $35 an hour. Then when you guys clock out and go home, the second shift that comes in's got to continue to work. That is another $35 per hour. Then if you've got a third shift that they've got to come in, that's another $35 per hour. Then you got to deal with the theft and the vandalism, not intentional vandalism, but when employees drop products, companies don't take it out of your pay, but the company has to take that loss. When employees steal products, the company doesn't always take that out of your pay, and they don't always fire you over it. If you steal the right thing at the right time, they will, but usually they have to take that financial loss. So decreasing the loss by eliminating the human error, they're going to increase revenue. By lowering the wages, they're going to increase revenue because they're taking less losses, which allows them to double down on the machinery. So yeah, it might take 3 machines to do the job of one person. But if they've got 300 machines ultimately operating a 2,000 man operation, you got 2,000 unemployed individuals, because those machines never take breaks, never have days off. You might have some that defect and have to be serviced every now and again, but that machine is going to be down for what, a day or a few hours, where the only jobs we're going to start having is tech jobs, where we're repairing the hardware, engineering jobs, or software, where we're going to be building the AIs or maintaining the AI systems that are operating. All of these changes are made during all of this political unrest. Pat said the whole monetary system is floored, where private banking, the feds, is private and can create money digitally at will. Being an employee is like slavery. I have said that forever. It's not like slavery. It is exactly that. Minimum wage is the least amount of money that they can give a person to sustain their life enough to come back and work tomorrow. which is the exact same thing that the master did when he gave it to his subjects so that they could continue to work tomorrow. It's the exact same thing. And when we talk about these topics, a lot of people get dismayed about it, but I can tell you with my lovely tan that free labor workforce, while I would have hated to be an employee in that particular scenario, from the mentality of big business, that free labor workforce made a lot of sense. And to offset that free labor workforce, what they're going to do now is they're going to have machines, community service, volunteering, unpaid internships. And these are ways that they're going to replace that same seemingly free labor workforce. You're talking about American manufacturing. You see how they are building the female AI robot, form figured like a woman, facial features fully functional. I know most of y'all that are watching from Twitter X, y'all seen this, that these AI folks, $150,000 for a female robot. Can't do nothing nasty with it. Doesn't have those components yet. That's the upgraded version. But having a robot that can interact with you and do all the things that your girlfriend and wife doesn't want to do. I talked about this with Sally. This is what fuels the development in technology. Not taking shots at the women. Think about this. They made machines to replace human workers because the human workers didn't perform the way the company wanted them to perform. They made female companions because the women did not want to conform to the way that the men need women to conform. Eventually, they're going to have males to offset, which is going to, he said, bartered or traded. Well, bartered or traded is still the same thing, because I mean, think about if you work for somebody and they feed you and give you a place to stay. If they give you a little spending money to buy yourself something nice every now and again, you live in comfortably because you don't need for nothing as long as you work for them. But you don't have any money to do anything else. Still a form of slavery. Think about CEOs with company cars, company houses, company phones. They got a good lifestyle, but they must go to work every day, 55, 60 hours a week, fixed income, salary. You work when they tell you to work, because if you don't, they will fire you. And if they fire you, you will be homeless. They will take your car and take your phone. You won't even have a phone to call for another job. And not too many people carry a second, third, or fifth cell phone. You become dependent upon the stuff that the company lent to you because you've been an employee of the company for so long. But when the company doesn't want to do business with you no more, you come to see exactly how much of your life was dependent upon that company. And that's what big business likes. They get more out of you if you need them, which is a form of slavery. Now, likewise, with this technology, the things that people aren't willing to do, technology is going to replace those actions. This stuff's still going to get done. So back to your statement about manufacturing in the United States. Whatever they bring back to the United States as far as manufacturing, they're going to bring that back on a foundation of AI labor force. We have not experienced yet, because it's just started happening. We have not experienced yet the full impact of the mandatory deportation. Because in the construction realm, individuals, day laborers that are willing to take $5 and $10 an hour to do the same construction job as an American who's occupied by the construction industry, making $30 or $40 an hour, you have to understand the salary of American workers is going to be offset on the client. So when contractors start hiring American employees, and the American employees are not going to work for less than $25, $30 an hour, and in some expensive cities and states like New York and California are going to be wanting like $50 an hour to build this wall or build this roof, you're going to see the contractors charging a higher bid. And since everybody's going to be raising the price, nobody's going to argue about that. Now, developers of properties are going to have to spend a lot more money on construction because of the labor, the increase in labor. Now, the increase of cost for the construction is going to be the increase in either the rent for the property or the sale of the property. Coupled with the inflation, where the government's not willing to reduce the interest rates, lenders are going to have a stricter requirement because the property costs more and they don't have guarantees of stability in the market, which means the buyer has to have a higher standard of living, of income, to be able to afford to buy that house now. Trickle down effect. Now, bringing more manufacturers to the United States, you will see the price of American products go down. Like Trump said, it'll encourage more people to buy American brands. But Tesla is an American brand. I'm just going to put it out there. What is your opinion of the Cybertruck? Because that's $130,000 worth of body parts falling off of the car, rust within 2 or 3 weeks of ownership, bent frame. You got to pay extra for the bullet resistant glass. The vehicle isn't impact resistant. The 30 times rolled steel is not impenetrable to impact. We haven't even seen a crash test rating on this vehicle, like talking about it. They did do one, but like they have not done like T-bone this vehicle and all this other stuff. Well, they did, but they didn't like show us in his debuts of the vehicle. And what I seen is that when they do the T-bone crash, like it breaks the rear axle because there's a turning rear axle and then the front axle, and to allow it to do that crab turn thing. But all of these features on the vehicle, some bitches is $130,000. The average American can't afford that. And then the vehicle does not do what they advertised it would do because it doesn't have the AI software on it. It does not have the self-charging solar panel system on it yet. So you're paying all this extra money for the Founder Series. Pat says, I think electric vehicles is a colossal waste of resources. Actually, right now it is. Research indicates that it takes about 20 years of pollution to make an electric battery. Okay. Then you're going to put it in this electric car, and the average car lasts 3 to 5 years before it is crashed. An electric vehicle would have to last 25 years in order for it to offset the pollution impact on the environment to make the electric battery. The electric batteries on the vehicles usually last between 100,000 miles and 200,000 miles. And depending on how much you drive. If you're driving 20,000 miles a year, that's 10 years. But the car has to last 20 to 25 years to make a difference. To make a difference in the economy, or not the economy, the environment, to make a difference in your wallet, you have to have it and use it for 20 to 25 years. But the battery is like $5,000 or $10,000 to replace. Now, you could take out an insurance claim and replace the battery, and that's one hit on your insurance, and your insurance goes up. But, and we're going to talk about that in a second too, but you're spending about $30,000 more for an electric car than a gas power car. And you're not going to see that profit for 20 to 25 years, but you get a gas power car, and that gas power car, you would see the return on that son bitch within 5 or 10. The longevity. Fact is, you can park a gas power car and crank that bad boy back up down the line. You matter of fact, you could drain all the gas out of a gas power car, park that bad boy, and when you want it, dump some gas into it, take it and go somewhere. Electric car, they got to stay plugged in. Electric bills are going up. So, oh yeah, they give you the pitch. You're not spending money on gas anymore, so you're saving so much money on gas. But at $2.90 for fast chargers, for a 30-minute fast charger, you're still paying money for gas, or you're still paying money for the charge. Then one of the things I thought that was ridiculous about the electric vehicles is the charge time. Typically, without the supercharger, fast charger connection, you're typically spending 8 to 12 hours to recharge a vehicle. You pay a decent chunk of change, you can recharge a vehicle in 30 minutes. The only time I have ever spent 30 minutes at a gas station is when it was a popular gas station and I had to wait for the pump. Because on average, the time it takes for me to prepay at the pump and then pump the gas in the car and then get back in the car should take less than 10 minutes. An electric car takes you at least a half hour. So what this means is that you would have to legitimately park your car at the gas station near an activity, be it a restaurant, a movie theater, something to that effect, and have the car on charge while you are entertaining yourself with whatever you got going on, so that when you come out, the car is charged. Or you're going to have to supercharge your car at the house, which increases your light bill. Drive, I'm going to tell you 1/3 of reason being the number of people that you put in your car reduces your mileage per kilowatt. Then drive back. And the other concern that I have with the electric cars is you're not jumping that son bitch off. If you run out of gas, somebody can show up with a 1-gallon gas can and top you off, and that'll get you 20 to 50 miles. They might give you 2 or 3 gallons of gas just to make sure and get you where you got to go so that you can fill your tank up. If you run out of power, somebody would have to bring you a 2 to 4 hour charge to get you back going, to get you on the road. That ain't no everyday pit stop. See what I'm saying? So all of these things that happen in the economy, like when we think about these things, it's like, oh yeah, I want to have an electric vehicle. Sure. I think the one electric vehicle that made sense was the electric cab, the RoboCab that Elon said was supposed to debut Q1 of next year. If it does debut Q1 of next year, because it has no steering wheel, so you're at the mercy of the vehicle. You can't get a DUI because you're not steering the vehicle. So for people who drink too much and then drive home, you can drink too much and then ride this vehicle home. But the vehicle was priced at $30,000, which is $10,000 more than the average vehicle, because a lot of the economic and efficient vehicles are sold between $15,000 and $20,000. So an electric car, that's $30,000. But he didn't say that electric car was going to have like 500-mile range on it. So it might have the standard like 150 to 300-mile range on it, but it drives itself. So it can become a source of income. If you put it up on one of those like El Toro sites where you're renting out your car, it'll drive to the person, be driven around by the person, drive itself back, and you can make money off your car when you're not using it. That is the only thing that I've seen that they have done with the electric cars that makes sense. But if you're buying a car that everybody else is riding in, don't nobody want nothing used. So we don't really like sharing our car with the rest of America. But if we're going to buy a car that we will rent out to the rest of America to make a profit, that makes sense. But here we are again trying to brainstorm of ways to find employment, because like I was about to tell y'all, the female robots are replacing women. The manual labor robots are replacing workers. As people are being replaced by machines, we're going to have a harder time finding the ability to fill that particular role. So we got to start finding other ways to make money for us. And that's why I cover all of the things that I cover on the show, because you have to see how the world is changing and how it's going to change the way you're able to make money, save money, invest money. Pat Wilder B says electric scooters make sense, but think about the load on the power system if everyone had an EV. I didn't even cover that part. That's actually a good point. Think about how much money Canada is going to make off of everybody because America has a limited power source. And instead of us increasing green energy development, we instead started buying it from Canada. So if 100% of the population was using mono-electric vehicles, the power grid would have a huge weight on it. So Pat's right. It would have a huge weight on it. The Golden Dome is nothing but a bunch of satellites. So the only place you would see us getting a larger quantity of electric reserves would be from those 30-foot tall steel beams that they're calling a wall. If you guys ever have time, Google the wall. Google the wall. It is not an actual wall. It is 30-foot tall steel beams that are spaced apart with enough space for an assault rifle, but not enough space for somebody to squeeze through. And then a chain link fence at the top of it and potentially barbed wire above that. That's the wall. Look at some pictures of it. Google that stuff on the internet. And it's crazy. But if you put solar panels at the top of that wall, it could potentially generate a larger quantity of energy. But as I covered that part on the show, they're not interested in putting solar panels on the wall. They're just focused on putting the wall up. The idea is reserved on a back burner for adding solar panels to the wall down the line. But that's yet to be seen, because over the next 4 years, whatever Donald Trump can accomplish, he will accomplish. But if a Democrat gets into office after Donald Trump finishes his first term, there will not be any more Trump development projects in existence during a Democratic reign, which means that if Donald Trump doesn't run for a third term and gets elected, which that's a whole nother conversation. If that doesn't happen, a Republican would have to be elected with the goal and the drive to continue doing what Donald Trump started in order to see a decade of progress in the same linear direction. So if they don't get it built before the end of his second term, it's likely not going to get built. So could we even support 360,000 electric vehicles, or not 360,000, 360 million, 365 million electric vehicles? Can we support? No, we couldn't. But if everything went to public transportation and they taxed the bejesus out of solo transportation, people who drive themselves, and all the public transportation was self-driven AI, almost like what you see in those sci-fi shows, yeah, they could make it work, because they would only have probably 30 or 40% of the amount of foot traffic on the road, and they would offset that by the lack of labor, because all of the machines would be operated autonomously. And then you would have the almost like the experiences you get in New York, where everybody would be utilizing driverless transportation. Now, my concern with these EVs, and I've said this before, I don't like the fact that a third party can commandeer my vehicle without even being with my vehicle. That's my concern. I would like to have one. I'd like to ride in one, but I'm concerned, outside of hitting my gas powered vehicle with an EMP, my gas powered vehicle, you have to come to it and take it from me physically. An electric vehicle, especially electric vehicles with AI software, self-driving capabilities, all you have to do is contact the vehicle, hack into its system, and tell it to redirect us. And your car just left on command, right? And then y'all seen the hacker situations where cars were being driven off cliffs, people got hurt, some lost their lives because the cars got hacked, and this was supposed to be a closed network. Hackers show you nothing is avoidable from hacking. It just takes time. But like you said, with the electric scooters do make sense. The only problem with electric scooters is that Americans don't know how to drive. They're taught to hold the steering wheel, and they call that driving. That's not driving. That's balancing the vehicle and keeping it from going off road. Driving requires you to maintain the functions of the vehicle, including shifting the gears, the power, the RPMs, the momentum. Like, there's more to it than just holding the steering wheel, because a toddler can hold the steering wheel. But can you prevent from barrel rolling down the street during a blizzard and crashing into the cars in front of you? Now, when you talk about scooters, I got beef with the motorcycle design, where individuals are weaving through traffic at high rates of speed because they can. I ain't got no beef with y'all guys personally, but I feel like that is a dangerous decision that you're making, to weave through traffic. Yes, it's exciting, but it's unnecessary. You're going to get there eventually. You don't need to squeeze between multiple vehicles to get to where you're trying to go. But that type of behavior, coupled with individuals who are driving actual vehicles and they're not paying attention to where they're going because they're updating their social media platform while they're driving, twerking on top of SUVs while they're driving, doing the Drake dance outside of the vehicles while they're driving, ghost ride the whip. They're so careless with their vehicles right now that an individual on a scooter would break several bones in a car crash with an SUV. And the average individual prefers an SUV because they can fit more of their friends in the SUV, even though their friends aren't putting gas in their car. All of these things lead to, and then did you know that there's 61% higher chance of fatality in a T-bone crash with an SUV? But for some reason, they want the SUVs. Did you know that there's a higher chance for the SUVs due to the increased ride height for the SUV to turn over during a turn? Yeah. But SUVs fit more people, so people will ride with the SUV. It's all about branding and marketing. So all of these things negatively impact or positively impact commerce. which, speaking of commerce, talking about online sales, weirdly enough, drop shipping is becoming the next big thing next to affiliate marketing. And so many people are starting up online stores, but so many people don't have a damn job. And I'm wondering, where the hell is the money coming from? Because you can buy just about anything you want offline. You can sell just about anything you want online with the right licenses and certifications. And for some reason, money is being spent, but so many people don't have a damn job. And that brings me back to the question, with all of this stuff that's going on, because we argued this about the immigration. Trump said that they're spending more money on immigrants than immigrants pay into the economy. One of the fans came to the show and showed me statistics about how much money the immigrants invested into the country in 2022 and how they said it would cost us in 2026 or 2028 double that for them to stay here. When I crush numbers, I'm like, well, based on what you're telling me, you should charge them more money. Don't throw them out. Tax them. Didn't Trump say, oh, we're going to charge you $1,000 a day to stay here and seize your properties for the offset the debt? That makes sense. You don't got to force them out of the country. Just take their whole paycheck. Then let's tiptoe back over to the adult industry. That's the only thing he hasn't touched on yet. When he does touch on that, we'll determine if he's going to outlaw it like he said he would, or if he's going to do like Ukraine and tax it. Because Ukraine, it has supported their military budget with OnlyFans money. So here in America, that ain't happening yet. But if they're taxing 40-50% to OnlyFans money, and OnlyFans are willing to pay that, they're going to legalize it the same way they legalize weed. And here's another side note question. A legalized recreational weed. Why do we still have underground drug dealers? Shouldn't they have by now gotten their paperwork together, built themselves a distribution network, and like expanded upon it? They should have like storefronts with the kush in it, but they're still nickel and diming out of their back pocket. All of these things lead to the ridiculousness behind advertising and branding, which why we talked about the electric cars, which is why I talked about everything today, the advertising and the branding, the ability to turn a profit, the lack of ability to turn a profit, and how all of these things are going to change due to the shit that happened this year, this month even. Because I told y'all, today's the 24th. They didn't sell TikTok. ByteDance hasn't sold yet. Beijing hasn't flexed yet. We're still going to be in a position where we're going to have to live like this for another 90 days, at least. It might run the rest of the year. Because Trump said as long as discussions are promising, heading in a direction of sale, he's going to continue to give extensions. Now, how many people went and got shares for TikTok? Nobody? But when it sells, though, you're going to wish you had those shares. What we need to start doing, we need to start taking time out of our day. And instead of paying attention to street fights and irresponsible behavior and disrespecting police officers and getting beat up for it, instead of us paying attention to individuals that are making themselves look bad in public and individuals that are degrading and devaluing themselves, and we utilize this as a form of information. Instead of doing, we need to take more time out of our days, more time out of our lives, and we need to start putting more effort into finding out what is happening in society that is directly or indirectly going to impact us. Then what we should be trying to do is try to navigate how we're going to work around that so that we are not compromised by the decisions that are being made. Swinging back around, since Israel is celebrating after all the actions that were performed by Trump, the officials are calling that strike a historic move that has seriously weakened Iran. And since we have other reactions that are mixed, key allies like Australia and Canada said they supported the goal of stopping a nuclear Iran, but pushed for everyone to de-escalate. And Russia is condemning the strike. So now, when you start thinking about political travel, and I call it political travel, but anytime U.S. leaders do stuff that other country leaders don't like, it sours the observation of your U.S. passport in going to that country, which means that you got to rethink your travel plans. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called the bombing a dangerous escalation that put world peace at risk, where here in the United States, the decision sparked a huge controversy. So since President Trump ordered the strike without getting approval from Congress first, lawmakers blasted the move, arguing it was unconstitutional. So many things are happening this year that are unconstitutional. And they're saying that the president had to put the U.S. on a path to war without any legal or public debate. That man is the chief. He is the highest position of military. He answers to himself. What makes you think he is supposed to ask anybody else for permission to push the red button? That's like his whole job is to decide when it is time to push the red button. Now, in the immediate aftermath of the scenario that just occurred a couple days ago, the world is now in a new, very unstable situation. And the biggest fear is that these limited strikes could set off a larger war across the region, where Iran has warned of a new era of instability. And it is still in a situation where it has a network of proxy forces across the Middle East that could threaten U.S. troops and allies, where Tehran could also try to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, that narrow channel where about 20% of the world's oil passes through. That is going to impact your ability to make and invest in oils. And that would be a move that would be catastrophic for global economy. Now, when you say no one is above the law, that is a very good phrase, Pat, because Diddy got 30 plus 1 years. This other gentleman just recently got 154 convictions, where he's doing multiple life sentences for diddying with children. Financially challenged people are not above the law. Some police officers are not above the law, but you notice that there have some that have killed up to 30 people in the line of duty, and they got medals of honor for that. But you also have to remember, we elected a president that was first convicted for 34 felonies before the election. And before they sentenced him, they threw the case out. They weren't deliberating the case. they claimed that he was guilty of the accusations. And before they could sentence him, they dropped the charges and made him president. A billionaire kind of overturns that saying that nobody's above the law. Because who's going to arrest the president? Who's going to arrest the former president? These guys got the kind of money where they can pay somebody $10 million to do something you would never think of doing. And that's like handing somebody $10. The fact is, billionaires operate off a reputation. They don't operate off of following laws. Poor people operate off of following laws because we don't have a reputation. Why does impeachment exist? They have made a mockery out of impeachment since 2017. Impeachment is supposed to remove a president from power when the president is not performing his duties as a president. The only time we have seen presidents step down was like the Bill Clinton sex scandal, which had nothing to do with him being president, but because he had an affair with his wife in the Oval Office, they removed him from. But I don't recall Monica Lewinsky suing him for doing what he did. I don't recall Monica Lewinsky going to HR and filing complaints for him doing what he did. But because people found out that he did what he did, he resigned before they impeached him. Trump, on the other hand, $135,000 did what he did. And he's got a campaign on making that type of action unlawful. My question is that when you start talking about impeachments, if your actions and behavior are unbecoming of a president before you get elected, why get elected? Hillary Clinton, she had to service in the basement. She had to stop running. But Hillary Clinton, not a billionaire. You know, Joe Biden, he was just too old. But if he would have had an extra 10 years under his belt, Joe Biden would have went for a second term. Obama had enough of it the first time, the first 2 terms he did. He ain't trying to do a third. The fact is that the outside of recognized espionage, outside of embezzlements and extortion, blackmail, unlawful hits being taken out on people that gets brought to the public eye, outside of all of that stuff, there isn't very many reasons why they would legitimately impeach a president. And the irony of it is that the process takes so long that the president will no longer be in office by the time they decide to kick him out of office. So then the question is, like you said, what are we doing with impeachment? But the man is doing something. I would go so far as to say that he's doing his job. I would. The job is to reduce the debt. The job is to protect American interests. War is not in our best interest because we can't spend money if we're fighting a war. We can't make money if we're fighting a war. We don't have to personally be in the war if our investments are at war. The same way Kendrick Lamar and Drake they had the same record label, and their record label took a financial dip because those 2 idiots were fighting each other. That is the exact same scenario that we have when our resources from Iraq and Iran are negatively impacted by the war. Notice 20% of the world's oil coming from Iran. So how are you going to be able to get the oil out of Iran if Iran is under attack? So you got to stop the war so that you can get your oil. Now, there's some other big questions that they're asking right now. How long will these strikes, will the airstrikes that occurred recently be long-term results? Because the Trump administration claimed it obliterated Iran's nuclear sites, but military experts have warned for years that you can only delay a country's nuclear ambitions with bombs. You can't bomb away the knowledge of how to build the weapon. There's a very real danger that Iran, feeling like it has nothing left to lose, might just pull out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and make a desperate secret dash for a bomb with whatever it has left. And that's when you start dealing with like dirty bombs and stuff to that effect. The decision to bomb Iran's nuclear sites on June 21st, 2025 was one of the most defining moments of the Trump presidency after the hundreds of executive orders that he signed in less than 90 days. And it was a choice born from decades of bad blood, triggered by a regional war that was spinning out of control, which, truth be told, was negatively impacting our ability to receive resources from that region. And it was carried out with overwhelming force. So the administration sold it as a clean, necessary strike to stop a clear threat and help a friend, which every time a cop kills somebody, they call it a clean shot. But when you look at the body cam, the dude was unarmed and all he was doing was pulling up his pants. So I can't call it clean every single time, but I can say that delaying their ability to develop nukes prevent them from developing the courage to try to take shots at the U.S. Pat says Israel allegedly has nukes. Stolen U.S. technology is not ideal member. What makes you think those nukes were stolen? They could have been handed over willingly. They could have been sold over there. What makes you think those nukes were stolen? Every item, he said, IAEA member. I can't say that they are necessarily stolen. Well, okay, the blueprints might have been stolen from its original source and then sold to the highest bidder, which is something that happens on a black market a lot of the times. A lot of American stuff, you have military powers that sells American technology that they're no longer utilizing to other countries. So they've been in mass production for it for a long period of time. The same way Ford started selling parts to Dodge, the same way Samsung started selling parts to iPhone. America starts selling weapons and weapons designs to other countries. This happens on a regular basis. So, like I said about an hour ago, the U.S. is not the only person with nukes, but Iran was the only one making the quantity of nukes that could perceive to be threatening to the U.S. And that's why U.S. blew them up. It's like if you might be putting enough knobs in your car to make your car faster than my car, I'm gonna come and slash your tires. That way you can't drive. But in doing this, it sidestepped Congress, it split the world's opinion, and rolled the dice on stability of the entire Middle East. So the real consequences are still unknown, because since it just happened this weekend, we're not going to feel the full effects and the fallout of it. We have not seen the peace of things yet. But since we have not seen the peace of things yet, we're not sure if this will lead directly to a direct attack on the U.S. But I'm going to tell you, based on my observation of the data that I've collected, that it is highly unlikely that the U.S. will experience direct attacks where U.S. soil gets blown up. Notice how I worded that, because the occasional missile heads in the direction of the U.S. on a regular basis. We just don't know about them because they're always shot out of the sky. Our defense systems are tested on a regular basis, whether accidentally or on purpose. Our defense systems are tested on a regular basis. And we have not experienced a missile strike on U.S. soil that I've heard of since the Civil War. Well, they weren't using missiles in the Civil War. They were using whatever they could use in World War I. But since the Civil War, we have not had stuff blowing up on American soil from non-American people that were not terrorists. So did this action truly prevent the nuclear crisis that people were concerned about for the past 40 years? Or did it just light the fuse on a much bigger, much more devastating conflict that is yet to come? He says U.S. defense system tested likely in Ukraine. Oh, okay. So you're talking about Ukraine's dome that was tested. Yeah, Ukraine's dome was tested, and now Donald Trump is spending $500 billion on building a better one than that for the United States. But no, when I start talking about the U.S. systems being tested, I'm talking about how you overhear on the news, usually CNN or Fox or something like that, where an occasional missile heads in the direction of the U.S. and gets shot down. I don't know who's launching those missiles. And I can't say that they're testing it like voluntarily. The U.S. is like, hey, throw one at me and see if I can hit it. I'm saying testing it because I don't have enough information to prove that people are literally trying to attack the U.S. and failing because of the defense system. But I can confirm that there are missiles heading in the direction of the U.S. on a regular basis that are being stopped on a regular basis, which leads to the requirement for the missile defense system that the American government puts a lot of money into when people complain about the military budget. What you don't see, you don't worry about, but there are real dangers out there. And if this man is about to spend $500 billion on a missile defense system, there's something that we don't know about that's on the rise, and he's taking a preemptive strike on preparing for it. Doesn't have to make sense today, this year, this month. But down the line, something will change where what we were doing in 2025, we're going to be glad it exists in 2035, 2055, something to that effect. But for now, the world holds its breath, waiting to see what Iran does next. So I really appreciate all of you for hanging out with us today. We're going to wrap things up because I do have a contract I got to get to in 15 minutes. And we're going to be dealing with tomorrow's show. We're going to be going on the ins and outs of the Trump phone and all of the financial shifts due to the politics and the branded telecommunications that's starting to come about with celebrities starting up their own phone lines and other such stuff. We're going to be starting off at about the same time tomorrow, around about 11:35 Eastern Standard Time, which is about 10:35 Central Standard Time. So make sure that you guys like and subscribe for tomorrow's show. It's already up there. You can go to the YouTube channel and hit the notification button, and then when the show goes live, it'll send you a push notification, let you know that we're here. Remember, we're live 7 nights a week. We're a male-driven podcast from the male perspective, so we will give you information that everybody can use. But ladies, this is designed to help the men become higher valued men and make better decisions with their life choices. So y'all can learn from us, or y'all can watch us improve. It's your choice. With that being said, any comments in the comment section during the outro of the show will be seen on the show as long as they're appropriate. You'll see them in the comment section up there. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And then for the rest of you guys, I really appreciate y'all for coming to the show. Thank you again for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm your host, Xander, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting down upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.